Chosen one, why do you feel like God forgot your address? Why does everyone else seem to coast through life while you've carried burdens that would crush ordinary souls? Why has your phone been silent when you needed him most? Stop, right there. What if I told you that every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if heaven even sees you? What if all of that wasn't abandonment? What if it was preparation? If you're hearing this message right now, this very second, it's not because you were scrolling through videos. You didn't find this. This found you. Heaven intercepted your search because your name, your exact name, was written into this moment before time began. I need you to understand something that's going to shatter everything you thought you knew about your struggle. There's a vault in the spiritual realm that's been sealed for centuries, ancient, untouchable. But right now, as I speak these words, that vault is cracking open like thunder splitting the sky. And what's inside? A billionaire's blessing with your fingerprints already on it. You think you've been forgotten? You've been protected. You think you've been overlooked? You've been positioned. Every storm that tried to drown you was actually washing away everything that wasn't supposed to be in your future. Picture this, a river of abundance so vast, so powerful, that it makes Niagara Falls look like a leaky faucet. That river has been dammed up for 70, 80, maybe 90 years of your life. But the dam is about to burst. And when it does, the overflow won't just change your bank account, it'll rewrite your bloodline. Why has your journey been harder than most? Because you're not most people. Why has the storm lasted so long? Because what God is about to release through you requires someone who's been tested by fire and came out as gold. Before we go deeper into this divine mystery, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let that sacred stirring guide your heart. But right now, if your spirit is trembling, if something ancient is awakening in your chest, I need you to do something. Type 777 inch the comments. Don't think about it, just do it. That's not a number. That's a signal flare to heaven that you're ready to receive what's been waiting for you since before your first breath. This isn't about a video, chosen one. This is about your destiny, and what I'm about to reveal will either transform everything, or you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what if. The vault is opening. Your name is being called. Are you ready to answer? Why do you feel like you're living someone else's nightmare? Why does it seem like every door you approach slams shut just as your hand reaches for the handle? Why have you been faithful for decades, yet your prayers echo back like they're bouncing off a concrete ceiling? Let me tell you something that's going to cut straight through the confusion and land in the deepest part of your spirit. Your pain isn't random. Your struggle isn't punishment, and your isolation isn't abandonment. You are living the Joseph story. Turn with me to Genesis chapter 37. Here's a 17-year-old boy, favored by his father, carrying dreams so big they made his own brothers sick with jealousy. God showed Joseph visions of greatness, sheaves of grain bowing down, the sun and moon, and 11 stars paying him honor. This wasn't just a dream. This was divine download, heaven's blueprint for his future. But what happened next? His own flesh and blood threw him in a pit, sold him like cattle, 17 years old, and his family betrayed him for 20 pieces of silver. Does that sound familiar? Have your own people turned their backs on you? Have those closest to you been the ones who hurt you deepest? Have you ever felt like you're drowning in a pit while the world keeps spinning above you? Joseph thought his dreams were dead. 13 years. 13 long years from that pit to Potiphar's house, from false accusations to a forgotten prison cell. 13 years of wondering if he'd heard God wrong. 13 years of watching the sun rise and set on the same stone walls, the same iron bars, the same questions echoing in the darkness. God, where are you? Did I imagine it all? But here's what Joseph couldn't see from inside that prison. Here's what you can't see from inside your struggle. Every single day of suffering was a masterclass in character. Every moment of injustice was building the integrity he'd need to handle billions. Every night of loneliness was teaching him to lean on God alone when the weight of nations would rest on his shoulders. You see, God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. And the equipment? It's forged in the furnace of adversity. When Pharaoh finally summoned Joseph, when the prison doors swung open and the palace gates welcomed him in, it wasn't gradual. It wasn't a slow climb up the corporate ladder. In one single day, Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister, from forgotten to the most powerful man in Egypt, from managing nothing to stewarding the wealth of an empire. Genesis 41-42 says Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. That ring wasn't just jewelry, it was the key to the royal treasury. It was authority over every transaction, every trade route, every grain of wheat in the known world. But why Joseph? Why not someone who'd lived in comfort? Why not someone who'd never known betrayal? Because comfort breeds complacency. Ease creates entitlement. But the furnace of affliction produces pure gold. You think your financial struggles disqualify you from abundance? Joseph learned to manage with nothing so he could manage everything. You think your family betrayals make you unworthy of blessing? Joseph's rejection by his brothers positioned him to become a father to nations. You think your years of waiting have been wasted? Joseph's prison sentence was actually his PhD in divine destiny. Right now, someone listening to my voice has been carrying the same weight Joseph carried. You've been faithful when faithfulness felt futile. You've been kind when the world has been cruel. You've kept believing when believing hurt. And you've been wondering, God, how much longer? How much more can I take? Let me tell you what I see in the spirit realm right now. I see signet rings being polished in heaven's treasury. I see palace doors that have your name engraved above them. I see vaults of blessing that have been sealed for decades, waiting for someone with the character to steward them without losing their soul. You've survived what others couldn't survive because survival was never the goal. Preparation was. You've endured what would have broken ordinary people because you're not ordinary people. You're Joseph's generation. You're the ones being prepared for the overflow. But here's the part that should make your spirit tremble with anticipation. Joseph's promotion wasn't just about Joseph. When he stepped into his palace, when he took control of Egypt's wealth, he saved the known world from famine. His family, the same ones who betrayed him, came bowing before him, not knowing they were receiving mercy from the brother they'd thrown away. Your billionaire blessing isn't just about your bank account. It's about the lives you'll save, the dreams you'll fund, the ministries you'll launch, the families you'll lift out of poverty. You've been training in the dark so you can shine light when the world needs it most. Genesis 50-20 records Joseph's words to his brothers. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Every betrayal you've endured was positioning you for purpose. Every closed door was protecting you from settling for less than God's best. Every financial struggle was teaching you the value of heaven's currency. But here's the question that will determine everything. Are you ready to step out of the prison and into the palace? Are you ready to exchange your grave clothes for royal robes? Are you ready to discover that your pit experience was actually your preparation for unprecedented prosperity? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I will show you why the very thing that almost broke you is proof you are chosen for this billionaire blessing. Listen to me, chosen one. Right now, as I speak these words, there are chains around your mind that you don't even know exist. Invisible shackles that have been wrapped around your thinking for decades. And the enemy has convinced you they're permanent. But I'm about to shatter that lie. You see, the world has been whispering poison in your ear since you were old enough to dream. They told you wealth is only for the ruthless, the connected, the lucky. They said people like you, good people, faithful people, honest people, are supposed to struggle. That suffering somehow makes you more spiritual. That poverty is noble. That's not just wrong, that's demonic. The enemy has been running the greatest con game in human history, and his target has been God's chosen ones. He's convinced an entire generation of believers that wanting abundance is selfish, that praying for financial breakthrough is carnal, that God's children should be grateful for crumbs while the wicked feast at banquet tables. But where in Scripture does it say the righteous should live in lack? Show me the verse that says God's people should scrape by while his enemies prosper. You can't find it because it doesn't exist. In fact, the Bible declares the exact opposite. Proverbs 13:22 says the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Not might be stored up, is stored up, present tense, already done, waiting for you to claim it. But the enemy whispered, "You're not enough." He said, "You don't deserve it." He convinced you that your past mistakes disqualified you from future miracles. He made you believe that your age means your season has passed. Every single one of those thoughts is a chain forged in hell. And right now, as the truth hits your spirit, I want you to picture something. See those chains as rusted iron, brittle and weak, because that's exactly what they are. Your doubts about your worthiness, that chain just cracked. Your fear that it's too late, that shackle just snapped. Your belief that God's abundance is for everyone else but you, that prison door just swung wide open. You're not too old. Abraham received his greatest blessing at 100. You're not too broken. David was an adulterer and murderer, yet God called him a man after his own heart. You're not too late. Moses didn't even start his real ministry until he was 80 years old. The chains of limitation are crumbling off you like rust falling from iron. Can you feel it? That weight lifting from your shoulders? That's not your imagination. That's spiritual liberation happening in real time. But here's where the enemy gets desperate. When he sees those chains breaking, he launches his final assault. He sends doubt like a flood. What if this isn't real? What if you're being deceived? What if you get your hopes up and nothing happens? That's when you need to remember what God told the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 54, verse 17. No weapon formed against you will prosper. Not some weapons, not most weapons. No weapon. Every attack, every doubt, every whisper of fear, they're all powerless against someone who knows their identity in Christ. You want to know why the warfare has been so intense in your life? Because the enemy saw what God placed inside you before you even recognized it yourself. He's been trying to kill your dreams before you could birth them, trying to bankrupt you before your season of overflow, trying to isolate you before your season of influence. But he's too late. The chains are broken, the prison doors are open, and you're walking out with the authority of someone who's been through hell and came back carrying heaven. You're not entering survival mode anymore. You're entering overflow. Not just enough to get by, not just enough to pay the bills. Overflow that spills onto everyone around you. Abundance so massive that your grandchildren's grandchildren will benefit from the blessing that's about to hit your bloodline. But I need you to do something right now. I need you to stop being a silent observer and become an active participant in your own miracle. In the comments below, I want you to type 3 words: I receive it. Don't just watch this message. Declare it. Don't just hear these words. Agree with them. Because when you type I receive it, you're not just commenting on a video. You're making a covenant with heaven. You're announcing to every principality and power in the spiritual realm that you're done with lack, done with limitation, done with the lies that have kept you small. And here's something that's going to blow your mind. I want you to share this message, not because I need the views, not because it helps the algorithm, but because sharing this word is a prophetic act of faith. When you spread this message, you're declaring that God's people deserve to prosper. You're fighting against the lie that believers should be broke. This is not just an algorithm working in your favor. This is divine alignment, positioning you for the greatest transfer of wealth you've ever experienced. The chains of poverty mentality are shattered. The shackles of scarcity thinking are broken. and the door to your billionaire blessing is standing wide open. But walking through that door requires something most people aren't willing to give. Are you ready to discover what that is? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will demolish every lie the enemy has whispered about your future. You've been told that billionaire blessings are for tech moguls in Silicon Valley, for Wall Street titans, for young entrepreneurs with Harvard degrees and trust funds. But what if I told you that's the biggest deception Satan ever sold to God's people? The billionaire blessing isn't about chasing luxury cars or Manhattan penthouses. It's not about status or showing off. This blessing is about something far more powerful, far more sacred than anything money can buy alone. It's about freedom. Freedom from the 3 a.m. panic when you can't sleep because the bills are stacking up. Freedom from choosing between your heart medication and groceries. Freedom from watching your grandchildren struggle while you sit helpless, knowing you raised them better than the poverty they're drowning in. But here's where it gets revolutionary. This blessing isn't just about your bank account. It's about influence that reshapes nations. It's about legacy that outlives your body. It's about generational wealth that breaks every curse your bloodline has carried for centuries. Think about Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, thrown into prison for a crime he didn't commit. But when God's time came, Pharaoh didn't just give him a job. He gave him authority over Egypt's entire economy. Joseph wasn't just rich, he fed nations. He saved civilizations. His influence prevented genocide. That's billionaire thinking. That's kingdom economics. Or consider David, a shepherd boy forgotten in the fields while his brothers got the spotlight. But when God elevated him, David didn't just accumulate wealth. He established a kingdom so powerful that 3,000 years later, we still call Jesus the Son of David. That's generational impact. That's billionaire legacy. And here's what's going to shake you to your core. Scripture declares in Deuteronomy 8:18, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." Not just enough to get by, not just survival, money, wealth. The Hebrew word there is shayil. It means strength, efficiency, valor, and riches, all wrapped into one supernatural package. God doesn't give you the ability to produce poverty. He gives you the power to produce wealth. But you've been programmed to think small, haven't you? You've been conditioned to believe that wanting abundance makes you greedy, that praying for financial breakthrough makes you worldly, that hoping for more than just enough makes you ungrateful. Stop believing those lies right now. Picture a cup so full it can't contain what's being poured into it. The overflow doesn't just bless the cup, it spills onto the table, it flows onto the floor, it reaches places the cup never touched. That's your life when God activates the billionaire blessing. Your abundance doesn't stop with you. It cascades onto your children, your grandchildren, your community, your church, complete strangers whose lives you'll change without ever knowing their names. But here's what breaks my heart. Some of you watching this are 75, 80, 85 years old, and you've bought into the greatest lie the devil ever told seniors, that your best years are behind you. You think because your hair is silver, your influence is shrinking. You think because your body moves slower, your purpose has expired. You think because the world worships youth, God has moved on to younger vessels. That's not just wrong, that's demonic. Psalm 92:14 declares with thunderous authority, "They will still bear fruit in old age, they will stay fresh and green." Fresh and green at 70, fresh and green at 80, fresh and green at 90 and beyond. You're not entering your twilight years, you're entering your harvest years. Everything you've planted through decades of faithfulness, decades of prayers, decades of staying committed to God when others walked away, it's all about to bloom simultaneously. The world sees your wrinkles and thinks decline. God sees your scars and calls them credentials. The world counts your years and says you're running out of time. Heaven counts your tears and says your breakthrough is running toward you at the speed of light. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. Sarah was 90 when she birthed the impossible. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over the Messiah. Caleb was 85 when he demanded his mountain. Your age isn't your limitation. Your age is your qualification. Why? Because young people chase dreams, but mature believers carry authority. Young people have passion, but seasoned saints have proven faithfulness. Young people make promises, but elders keep them. God trusts you with the billionaire blessing because He knows you won't waste it on foolishness. He knows you'll use it to build schools, fund ministries, help struggling families, and leave an inheritance for your children's children, just like Proverbs 13:22 promises. You've spent your whole life giving to others. Now it's time for others to give to you. You've spent decades sowing seeds. Now it's time for the harvest that will astound your enemies and silence every voice that said you were finished. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. This window won't stay open forever. There's a divine season for every blessing, and your season is now. Not next year when you feel more ready. Not next month when circumstances look better. Now, right now, spiritual forces are aligning for your breakthrough. Right now, heaven's economy is shifting resources in your direction. Right now, God is preparing to vindicate every year you felt overlooked, every prayer you thought went unanswered, every dream you thought died. But you have to believe it before you see it. You have to speak it before you touch it. You have to act like it's yours before it appears in your bank account. If you believe this blessing isn't just for the young, but for every faithful heart regardless of age, then declare it right now. Say it out loud wherever you are. My time is not over. My overflow is here. Because what I'm about to share next will reveal exactly how this blessing manifests in your daily life and why the enemy has been fighting so hard to keep this revelation from reaching your ears. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. I'm about to shatter every lie you've believed about your pain. Why were you rejected by your own family when you needed them most? Why did that job slip through your fingers when you were the most qualified candidate in the room? Why did that marriage crumble when you gave it everything you had? Why have doors slammed in your face so many times you stopped believing you deserved to walk through them? You've been carrying shame, haven't you? Shame that whispers you're cursed. Shame that says God must be punishing you for something. Shame that convinces you that everyone else got the blessing memo, but somehow heaven lost your address. But what if I told you that every single rejection was divine redirection? What if every closed door was actually heaven's protection from something that would have destroyed your destiny? You see, the enemy has been playing a sick game with your mind. He's been pointing to your pain and saying, "Look how forgotten you are. Look how unloved you are. If God really cared, why would He let you suffer like this?" But that's the greatest lie ever whispered in human ears. Your pain is not proof of God's absence. Your pain is proof of your assignment. Think about Esther for a moment. Orphaned, no mother, no father, raised by her cousin in a foreign land. Probably wondered why God took her parents. Probably felt forgotten, overlooked, abandoned. But what she didn't know was that every tear, every lonely night, every moment of feeling displaced was positioning her for a palace. Queen Esther didn't just stumble into royalty. She was strategically placed for such a time as this. Your pain positioned you for such a time as this. Consider Gideon. When the angel of the Lord found him, he was hiding in a winepress, threshing wheat in secret, because he was terrified of the enemy, the weakest member of the weakest clan, in the weakest tribe. Yet the angel called him a mighty warrior, not because of what he was, but because of what God saw in him. The very fear that made him hide was the humility God needed to use him. Your weakness is God's launching pad for your supernatural strength. Look at Abraham, 75 years old when God promised him nations would come from his seed. 75, but then silence. Year after year, decade after decade. Sarah's womb remained barren. Their friends had grandchildren. Their neighbors mocked their faith. Abraham probably lay awake at night wondering if he'd imagined the whole thing. 25 years. 25 years of waiting, of wondering, of questioning. But Genesis 21:2 declares, Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him, at the very time. Not early, not late. At the exact moment heaven had ordained. Your billionaire blessing is not running late. It's running on divine time. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. Your blessing is not coming someday. It's not approaching from a distance. It's not scheduled for next year or next decade. Your billionaire blessing is already in motion. Right now, this very second, while you've been counting your losses, heaven has been counting your deposits. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in golden bowls before the throne. Every prayer you've whispered in desperation has been recorded in eternal books. Every act of faithfulness, when nobody was watching, has been accumulating compound interest in the bank of heaven. You think you've been forgotten? Heaven's scrolls are opening right now with your name written in letters of fire. You think you've been overlooked? The God of the universe is saying, it's time to release what I've been storing up for, my chosen one. But this is where it gets urgent. This is where time becomes critical. Every prophetic word has a window of opportunity. Every divine moment has an expiration date. Not because God changes his mind, but because faith requires action. Promise requires partnership. Blessing requires agreement. Moses had to pick up the rod. Joshua had to step into the Jordan. The widow had to pour the oil. David had to face the giant. They couldn't just believe. They had to act on their belief. Your billionaire blessing is hovering over your life right now like a cloud ready to burst with rain. But it requires your agreement. It demands your declaration. It needs your voice to call it down from the heavenly realm into the earthly realm. This isn't just about money, dear one. This is about divine vindication. This is about God proving to everyone who counted you out that he never counts his chosen ones out. This is about your family, your community, even your enemies witnessing what happens when heaven decides to validate someone's faithfulness. The blessing that's coming will silence every voice that said you wouldn't make it. It will answer every question about God's goodness. It will prove that delay is not denial, that silence is not absence, that God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't feel like it. But the window is open now. The vault is unlocked now. The river is ready to flow now. Right now, I need you to lift your voice, not just in your heart, out loud. In the comments, let heaven hear your agreement. Type these exact words: I receive my inheritance. Don't just watch this happen. Step into this covenant moment. Your pain qualified you. Your perseverance positioned you. Your faithfulness prepared you. Now it's time to receive what's been waiting for you since before your first breath. Because what happens next will depend entirely on whether you believe you're worth what God says you're worth. Dear chosen one, I need you to stop for a moment and think about something that might break your heart wide open. When was the last time your grandchildren called you just to talk? When was the last time they asked for your advice, your wisdom, your stories about the old days? You sit in that same chair every evening, watching the news, wondering if the world has simply moved on without you. Your children are too busy with their careers. Your grandchildren are glued to screens you don't understand, and somewhere deep in your chest, there's this ache that whispers, did my life even matter? Will anyone remember me when I'm gone? But what if I told you that everything you've endured, every tear, every prayer, every sleepless night you spent on your knees crying out to heaven, what if all of that wasn't just for you? What if God has been using your faithfulness to store up blessings for generations you haven't even met yet? Think about Joseph. Genesis 41 tells us he stored grain during 7 years of abundance, preparing for 7 years of famine. But here's what most people miss. Joseph wasn't just saving Egypt, he was saving his own family. His father Jacob, his brothers who had betrayed him, future generations who would become the nation of Israel. One man's obedience fed millions for centuries. That's exactly what your prayers have been doing. Every time you got on your knees at 3 a.m., crying out for your prodigal son. Every time you fasted and prayed for your daughter's marriage. Every time you stood in faith when the doctors gave bad reports. You weren't just praying for immediate relief. You were storing up grain in heaven's storehouse for your bloodline. Your grandchildren don't know it yet, but the breakthrough they'll experience at 30 is because of the prayers you prayed at 70. The addiction that will never touch your great-grandson's life is because you broke it in the spirit realm with your tears and intercession. The financial blessing that will flow through your family tree for the next 100 years started with your faithfulness in the lean seasons. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. You think your time is running out. You think your best years are behind you. You think you're just waiting to die. That's the biggest lie from hell. You're not in your final chapter, you're in your most important chapter. You're not winding down, you're winding up for the greatest legacy moment of your entire life. Look at Colonel Sanders, 65 years old, broke, living on social security checks. His wife left him, his restaurant failed. By every earthly measure, he was finished. But at 65, he franchised his chicken recipe and built KFC into a global empire worth billions. Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was 78. Laura Ingalls Wilder didn't publish her first Little House book until she was 65. God specializes in using people the world has written off. Because he knows something the world doesn't, your latter days are greater than your former days. Haggai 2:9 declares it. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than of the former. You're not finished, dear one. You're a bridge. You're a patriarch. You're a matriarch chosen by the Almighty to leave a legacy that will echo through eternity. Every gray hair on your head is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle on your face is a map of God's faithfulness. Every slow step you take carries the weight of authority that only comes from walking with God through decades of fire. But time is shorter than you think. Not your time, the window of opportunity to impact your legacy. Right now, this very moment, your family is watching you. They're watching to see if your faith is real when your body is failing. They're watching to see if you'll trust God when the bank account is shrinking. They're watching to see if the woman who taught them about Jesus still believes when life gets hard. Your response to this season will determine what they remember about your God for the rest of their lives. That grandson who's struggling with addiction right now, he needs to see you receive this billionaire blessing with thanksgiving, not doubt. That granddaughter who's afraid to trust God with her future, she needs to witness you step into abundance at 80 years old, so she knows it's never too late for a miracle. You think this blessing is about you getting comfortable in your final years. This blessing is about your grandchildren seeing what happens when someone serves God faithfully for 8 decades. This abundance is about your great-grandchildren inheriting a legacy of faith, not just money. Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children," not just financial inheritance, spiritual inheritance, faith inheritance, blessing inheritance that multiplies through generations like compound interest in heaven's bank. But you have to receive it first. You have to stop disqualifying yourself because of your age. You have to stop believing the lie that God's done using you. You have to step into this billionaire blessing with the same faith you had when you were 30, because your family needs to see that God's promises don't expire with your Medicare card. Your obedience today is storing grain for your bloodlines tomorrow. Your faith right now is writing checks that your grandchildren will cash in 20 years. Your yes to God's abundance is the key that unlocks doors for generations you'll never meet. If you can feel this truth stirring in your bones, if you understand that you're not just receiving this blessing but passing it down, I need you to do something prophetic right now. Write the names of your children and grandchildren in the comments below. Speak their names into this sacred moment. Let heaven record that you're claiming this blessing not just for yourself, but for every person who carries your DNA. This is your moment to become the ancestor your descendants will thank God for. But will you have the courage to receive what seems impossible at your age? You felt it, didn't you? When heaven's scrolls opened with your name blazing across eternity like lightning splitting the midnight sky. But that was just the beginning, chosen one. That was just God clearing his throat before he speaks your destiny into existence. I need you to picture something that's going to stop your heart. There's an envelope. not made of paper or sealed with wax. This envelope is forged from the very breath of the Almighty, inscribed with golden letters that burn brighter than the sun. And for 70 years, 80 years, maybe 90 years of your life, you thought that envelope was lost in heaven's mailroom. You've been checking your spiritual mailbox every single day, haven't you? Praying the same prayers until your knees wore grooves in the floor. Scanning the horizon for a breakthrough that never seemed to come. Watching younger people receive blessings while you sat in the waiting room of eternity, wondering if your ticket had expired. But listen to me very carefully. That envelope was never lost. It's been in God's personal safe the entire time. And the reason He's kept it locked away for so long? Because what's inside would have destroyed you if you'd received it too early. The blessing is so massive, so overwhelming, so earth-shattering that heaven had to prepare you first. Think about Moses. 40 years in Pharaoh's palace learning leadership. 40 years in the wilderness learning humility. Only then, at 80 years old, was he ready to carry the authority that would split seas and shake nations. Exodus 7:7 tells us Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. 80. When the world would have put him out to pasture, God was just getting started. You've been thinking your delays were denials, but every closed door was God's way of saying, "Not yet, beloved. You're not ready for what I'm about to place in your hands." Every disappointment was divine protection. Every setback was set up for a comeback so magnificent that hell itself would tremble. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. That envelope bearing your name. It's not just about money. It's not just about financial breakthrough. What's sealed inside that divine correspondence is a billionaire's authority. The power to reshape bloodlines. The influence to redirect nations. The anointing to break generational curses that have held your family captive for 100 years. You think you've been praying for a blessing. God's been preparing you for an assignment that requires billionaire resources to complete. You think you've been asking for provision? Heaven's been grooming you to become the provider for others who are drowning in the same desperate waters you once knew. Remember Joseph? Genesis 41-46 tells us he was 30 when he stood before Pharaoh. But he didn't just receive position, he received authority over the entire Egyptian economy. Not because he was qualified by worldly standards, but because 13 years of rejection, betrayal, and imprisonment had forged something in his character that comfort never could. He didn't just manage wealth. He became the instrument through which God saved nations from starvation. Right now, as I speak these words, angels are descending with that envelope. Not metaphorically, literally. The spiritual atmosphere around your life is thick with anticipation. Can you feel it? That electricity in the air. That sense that something ancient and powerful is stirring. But I need to tell you something that might terrify you. This envelope comes with an expiration date. Not because God changes his mind, but because there are seasons when heaven's doors swing wide open, and seasons when they narrow to a whisper. We're living in a kairos moment. God's appointed time when what has been sealed is being revealed. Daniel 12:4 speaks of the time when knowledge shall be increased and sealed things would be opened. You're living in that hour. The envelope that's been gathering divine interest in heaven's vault is about to be hand-delivered by the archangel himself. You've been asking God, when will my breakthrough come? But the question isn't when. The question is, are you ready to receive what you've been praying for? Because when that envelope opens, when those resources begin flowing like Niagara Falls in reverse upward, defying every natural law, your life will never be the same. Think about the widow of Zarephath in 1 Kings 17. 1 handful of flour, 1 drop of oil, preparing her last meal before she and her son died of starvation. But when she gave that last bit to God's prophet, the barrel of flour never emptied. The jar of oil never ran dry. Not for days, not for months, for years. Her obedience in the moment of desperation became the miracle that sustained her through famine. You're standing at that same crossroads, your moment of divine intersection. The choice you make in the next few minutes to believe or to doubt, to receive or to reject, to say yes, or to say, maybe later, will determine whether that envelope opens in your lifetime or gets forwarded to the next generation. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Every attack you've endured, every season of lack, every moment you felt forgotten, it was all preparation for this transfer of wealth. You've been enrolled in heaven's MBA program, and your graduation day is here. The envelope is in the angel's hand. Your name is burning across the front. The seal is beginning to crack. What's inside that envelope will shake nations, and it's addressed to you. If you believe God is still writing your story, if you sense that this isn't coincidence but divine appointment, type in the comments right now, "My chapter is not finished." Because, beloved, what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what happens when heaven's envelope is finally opened in your life. You know what breaks my heart? It's watching God's chosen ones sitting in their empty kitchens at 2 a.m., staring at bills they can't pay, wondering if heaven even remembers their address. Maybe that's you right now. Maybe you've been praying the same prayer for 20 years, and the silence has become so loud it drowns out your faith. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How long have you been walking in circles? How many times have you felt like Moses, leading your family through a wilderness that never seems to end? Your children scattered across 3 time zones, calling maybe once a month if you're lucky. Your savings account bleeding out faster than you can patch the holes. Your body betraying you with every doctor's visit. This is your desert, isn't it? But what if I told you something that's going to shatter everything you believe about your current circumstances? What if this desert, this dry, cracked, seemingly God-forsaken place you've been wandering through, what if it's not your punishment? What if it's your positioning? The children of Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. 40 years. Can you imagine? 40 years of the same rocks, the same sand, the same complaints from the same people. Every morning they woke up wondering, God, are we there yet? Every evening they laid down thinking, maybe tomorrow will be different. But here's what they didn't understand, and here's what you need to grasp right now. Even in the desert, manna still fell every morning. Even in the dryness, water still flowed from rocks. Even in the waiting, God was still providing. The desert wasn't where God abandoned them, it was where He refined them. You've been refined too, haven't you? Every financial crisis that should have destroyed you but didn't. Every health scare that should have taken you out but you're still here. Every family crisis that should have broken your spirit but somehow you found the strength to pray another day. That wasn't luck, that was manna falling in your desert. Dear chosen one, I need you to feel the weight of what I'm about to say. Your desert has an expiration date. Every grain of sand you've walked through, every scorching day you've endured, every night you've cried yourself to sleep, wondering if God forgot your name. It's all been leading to this moment, this message, this divine appointment between heaven and your desperate heart. Look around your desert right now. I know it looks the same as it did yesterday. The checking account is still anemic. The phone still isn't ringing with good news. The family reunion still feels more like a trial than a celebration. But do you see that, way off in the distance, that tiny speck on the horizon? The prophet Elijah knew about waiting in the desert. He stood on Mount Carmel after calling down fire from heaven, after defeating 450 prophets of Baal, after proving that his God was the real God. But then he looked up at the sky and saw nothing. Not a cloud, not a hint of moisture, just the same merciless blue that had mocked Israel for 3.5 years. His servant climbed that mountain 7 times. 7 times. Each time coming back with the same report. There's nothing there. Can you feel Elijah's heart sinking with each negative report? Can you imagine his faith wavering just a little with each disappointment? But on the 7th time, are you listening? On the 7th time, that servant came running back with words that changed everything. There's a cloud as small as a man's hand rising from the sea. A cloud the size of a man's hand. That's it. That's all. In a sky that stretched for hundreds of miles, one tiny cloud that you could cover with your palm. Most people would have laughed. Most people would have said, "That's nothing. That's not enough to water a garden, let alone end a drought. But Elijah, this weathered, desert-tested prophet, he didn't see a small cloud. He saw the first wave of the flood. He didn't see insignificance. He saw inevitability. And he told King Ahab, "Get your chariot ready, because I hear the sound of a mighty rain." Do you hear what I'm telling you? Your billionaire blessing might be showing up as a cloud the size of a man's hand right now. Maybe it's that unexpected phone call last week. Maybe it's that small idea that keeps nagging at your spirit. Maybe it's that door that cracked open just an inch when you thought all doors were welded shut. Don't you dare despise the small signs. Don't you dare dismiss the whispers because you're waiting for the shout. The same God who can speak worlds into existence often starts with a whisper in a desperate heart. Your desert is about to become a garden. Your drought is about to become a downpour. Your empty is about to become overflow. And I need you to understand something crucial. The blessing that's coming isn't just big, it's billionaire big. Not because you deserve it, but because God's glory requires it. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. This isn't a maybe. This isn't a hope so. This is a prophetic declaration over your life. The rain is coming whether you believe it or not. The question is, will you be ready to catch it, or will you still be hiding in your tent when heaven opens the floodgates? I can hear it now. Can you? That distant rumble that sounds like thunder but feels like hope. That's not your imagination. That's the sound of $1 billion blessing breaking through the clouds of your circumstances. But first, you have to look up. You have to stop staring at the sand and start scanning the sky. Because what happens next will determine whether you're just a survivor of the desert or an heir to the kingdom, and the kingdom is about to make you very, very wealthy. But listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shake you to your very core. You think your struggle has been about money. You think it's been about circumstances. You think it's been about bad luck or poor timing. You're wrong. You've been in a war, a spiritual war, and you didn't even know it. The enemy has been studying you since the day you were born. He saw what God placed inside you, that billionaire blessing, that generational breakthrough, that authority to shift kingdoms, and he's been launching missiles at your destiny for decades. Every financial crisis that came out of nowhere, every relationship that imploded just when you thought you'd found happiness, every door that slammed shut when opportunity was within reach. That wasn't coincidence. That was warfare. John 10:10 declares with thunderous clarity, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy." The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets, dear one. He doesn't deploy his finest demons against people who pose no threat to his kingdom. But you've been in his crosshairs since your first breath, because hell knows something about your future that you're just beginning to remember. Every lie he's whispered in your ear has been designed to make you forfeit what's already yours. It's too late for you now. You're too old to start over. God's moved on to someone younger. You missed your chance. You're not smart enough, connected enough, worthy enough. Those aren't your thoughts. Those are enemy transmissions broadcast straight into your mind to keep you from claiming your inheritance. But here's what the devil didn't count on. Here's what makes hell tremble when they speak your name in the dark councils of evil. You're still here. After everything they threw at you, the betrayals, the bankruptcies, the broken promises, the sleepless nights when you wanted to give up but couldn't, you're still standing. That's not human resilience, beloved. That's divine protection over someone heaven refuses to lose. Isaiah 54:17 settles this battle once and for all. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Not some weapons, not most weapons, no weapon. Every scheme, every attack, every carefully orchestrated plot to destroy your future has already failed, because failure is the only option when hell goes to war with heaven's agenda. But now comes the moment that changes everything. You're about to shift from defense to offense. You're about to stop surviving the enemy's attacks and start invading his territory. Picture this with me. The walls of Jericho stood for generations. Massive, impenetrable. Everyone said they'd never fall. But when God's people marched around those walls 7 times and lifted their voices in unified declaration, what happened? Those walls didn't just crack. They didn't slowly crumble. They collapsed in one supernatural moment, and the very stones that once protected the enemy became the foundation for Israel's victory. Your billionaire blessing isn't just about wealth, chosen one. It's spiritual authority wrapped in financial provision. It's your license to walk into enemy territory and reclaim everything that was stolen from your bloodline. Every generational curse of poverty, every family pattern of lack, every limitation that's been passed down like some twisted heirloom. Tonight, those chains break. Can you feel them? The invisible shackles around your mind that whispered, "You can't afford that. That's not for people like us. We don't come from money." They're not just loosening. They're shattering like glass hitting concrete. The enemy's armies are scattering right now because they recognize something in your spirit they haven't seen before. You're not begging anymore. You're not hoping anymore. You're not wishing anymore. You're receiving. You're claiming. You're taking back what's yours by divine right. This is your Jericho moment. This is your Red Sea parting. This is your David facing Goliath declaration. And just like those biblical heroes, you don't need to understand how God will do it. You just need to open your mouth and declare it's done. I want you to do something right now that's going to send shockwaves through the spiritual realm. If you're sitting, I want you to stand up. If you're lying down, I want you to sit up. If you can't physically move, I want you to lift your spirit. Because what you're about to declare isn't just words. It's a battle cry that hell will hear and heaven will answer. Raise your hands. Yes, right there where you are. Don't worry about who's watching. This moment is between you and the Almighty. And I want you to declare with me, I take back what's mine. Every dollar, every opportunity, every blessing that was stolen, I reclaim it all in Jesus' name. Did you feel that shift in the atmosphere? That's not emotion, that's recognition. Heaven recognizing a child of the King stepping into their authority. Now flood these comments with your declaration. Type, I reclaim it all. Let hell see that you're not the same person who started watching this message. Let the angels witness your transformation from victim to victor. Because what happens next in your story isn't about hoping the billionaire blessing finds you. It's about you walking in the authority to command it to manifest. The war is won, chosen one. Now it's time to collect your spoils. But there's something else you need to understand about this blessing that's about to change, not just your life, but your legacy forever. Listen to me, dear chosen one. While you've been focused on your empty bank account, heaven has been filling a different kind of vault, not with earthly gold that rusts and fades, but with something far more precious, your tears. Your midnight prayers, your decades of faithfulness when nobody was watching. Every time you fell to your knees at 3 a.m., crying out for your prodigal son. Every dollar you tithed when you barely had enough for groceries. Every moment you chose forgiveness when bitterness would have been easier. You thought those prayers disappeared into thin air. But God has been storing them like treasures in a heavenly vault that's about to burst open. You see, this billionaire blessing isn't just about you finally getting what you deserve. It's about your bloodline never experiencing lack again. Your grandchildren will walk through doors you prayed open. Your great-grandchildren will inherit businesses you never saw, but your faith built. Think about Joseph in Egypt, 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. But Joseph didn't just enjoy the good times and panic during the bad. He stored grain. He prepared. Genesis 41-49 tells us he stored up grain in such abundance like the sand of the sea that he stopped measuring it because it was beyond measure. That's exactly what your faithfulness has been doing, chosen one. While you've been barely scraping by, heaven has been storing up abundance for your lineage. Every tear you've shed over your children's struggles, every sleepless night you've spent interceding for your family, every sacrifice you've made, believing God would somehow, someday make it right. It's all been accumulating interest in the spiritual realm. But here's what's going to shock you. That grandson who won't return your calls, he's about to need what you've been storing up. That daughter who thinks your faith is old-fashioned, she's walking into a season where only your prayers will save her marriage. That family business that's failing, it's about to be resurrected by the overflow of your obedience. You think your sacrifice has been wasted, your faithfulness unnoticed, your pain pointless. You've been Joseph in disguise, storing grain for a famine your family doesn't even see coming yet. Let me paint you a picture that will break your heart open. Right now, somewhere in Manhattan, there's a 5-year-old executive sitting in his corner office, staring at bankruptcy papers. He doesn't know his grandmother in Queens has been praying for him every morning for 12 years. He doesn't know that her faith is about to open a door he never even applied for. Tonight, in Brooklyn, there's a single mother crying over unpaid medical bills for her sick child. She has no idea that her grandfather's tithes from 40 years ago are about to manifest as an anonymous benefactor who covers every penny. This is how God's economy works. Your faithfulness doesn't just affect your present, it rewrites your future and your family's destiny. 1 Chronicles 29-14 declares, "Everything comes from you, and we have given you only what comes from your hand." You haven't been giving God your money. You've been returning to Him what was always His, and He's been multiplying it across generations. What if your financial struggles weren't punishment, but preparation? What if God allowed you to experience lack so your children would never have to? What if every door that closed in your face was actually God redirecting resources to a vault with your family's name on it? I need you to understand something that will change how you see every hardship you've endured. You weren't just surviving those years of struggle. You were earning generational wealth. Not just money, but favor. Not just blessing, but breakthrough that will echo through your bloodline for 100 years. Your great-grandmother's prayers opened doors for you that you never even knew were closed. Your mother's tears watered ground that produced opportunities you thought were coincidences. And now, chosen one, your faithfulness is about to do the same for a generation you may never meet. This legacy vault doesn't operate on earthly timelines. It operates on kingdom mathematics where one day equals 1,000 years, and where your widow's mite multiplies into a billionaire's inheritance for your seed. But there's urgency here that you must understand. This transfer of generational wealth isn't automatic. It requires activation. It demands that you speak your family into their destiny. Right now, I need you to do something that might feel strange but will shift everything in the spiritual realm. Say the names of your children out loud, your grandchildren, even the ones who don't speak to you anymore, even the ones who've walked away from faith. Speak their names as if you're depositing them into heaven's banking system. Better yet, type their names in the comments below. Not for me to see, for heaven to witness. Let the angels record that you're activating their inheritance. You're opening their accounts in the legacy vault that your suffering built. Because here's the truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. This blessing you're about to receive, it's not the reward for your faith. It's the down payment on your family's future. You're not the destination of this abundance. You're the distribution center. The question that will determine everything is this: will you see yourself as the final recipient of God's blessing, or as the first generation of your family's financial freedom? Why was your journey harder than everyone else's? Why did betrayal cut you deeper than it should have? Why did every setback feel like a personal attack from hell itself? I'm going to tell you something that will shatter every lie you've believed about your pain. You think your struggle was punishment. You think God was absent during your darkest hours. You think those sleepless nights meant you were forgotten. Listen to me, chosen one. Every tear you've cried, every rejection that broke your heart, every financial collapse that left you eating beans from a can, none of it was random. None of it was cruel fate. It was all divine preparation. You see, heaven doesn't give everyone the same training. God doesn't put the same weight on every believer's shoulders. But you've been carrying a load that would have crushed ordinary people. Why? Because you're not ordinary. Think about this. When a trainer prepares an athlete for the Olympics, does he give them lightweight exercises? When a master craftsman forges a sword for a king, does he use gentle heat? When God himself is preparing someone for a billionaire's inheritance, does he give them an easy life? The answer is thundering through eternity. David didn't become king by sitting in a palace. He spent years running from King Saul, hiding in caves, eating scraps, wondering if God's promise was just a dream. But every night in those dark caves was building something inside him that a comfortable throne never could. Moses didn't lead Israel out of Egypt because he had an easy childhood. He spent 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep, feeling like a forgotten failure. But God was forging the character of a deliverer in the furnace of obscurity. Joseph didn't rule Egypt because life handed him favor. He was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison for years. But Genesis 50-20 declares the mystery. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Every single blow that tried to destroy you was actually God preparing you for something so massive, so earth-shaking, that you needed supernatural strength to carry it. Picture this with me. Imagine a young man receiving a royal mantle. The moment it's placed on his shoulders, he buckles. The weight is crushing. He can barely stand. Everyone watching thinks he's too weak, too small, too unworthy. But that mantle isn't meant to destroy him. It's meant to reveal what he's made of. Month after month, year after year, he carries that weight. His shoulders broaden, his back strengthens, his spirit hardens into steel. And one day, one glorious day, someone places a crown on his head, and suddenly everything makes sense. The mantle wasn't burden, it was preparation. The weight wasn't punishment, it was training for royalty. That's your story, beloved. You weren't crushed by life. You were crowned by heaven. Every burden you carried was building the spiritual muscle you'd need to handle a billionaire's blessing. Every betrayal was teaching you discernment. Every financial struggle was showing you that your security comes from God, not from bank accounts. Every moment you felt forgotten was God hiding you until you were ready for public victory. 2 Corinthians 4:17 declares this truth. Our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Your troubles weren't light, they weren't momentary, but the glory that's coming, it's so massive that when you look back, every pain will pale in comparison. But here's what's shaking me to my core right now. Here's the revelation that's burning in my spirit like fire. Your season of preparation is over. The weight has done its work. The mantle has served its purpose. The crown is ready to be placed on your head. But there's one thing, just one thing standing between you and the breakthrough that will leave your family speechless, your community amazed, and your enemies silenced. Your yes. Heaven's floodgates aren't just cracking open, they're wide open. The billionaire blessing isn't on its way, it's here. The dam isn't about to burst, it's already bursting. The only thing left between you and the abundance that will rewrite your story is 3 letters. YES. God is waiting for your agreement. He's waiting for you to stop seeing yourself as a victim and start walking as royalty. He's waiting for you to stop apologizing for your past and start claiming your inheritance. He's waiting for you to stop whispering doubt and start shouting faith. The woman with the issue of blood could have stayed home. She could have accepted her condition. She could have believed that 12 years of suffering was her fate. But Mark 5:28 tells us she said something that changed everything. If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. That wasn't hope. That was declaration. That wasn't wishing. That was faith releasing what was already hers. Your billionaire blessing is already unlocked. The vault of heaven is wide open. The river of abundance is flowing at flood stage. But it requires your participation. It requires your voice. It requires your yes. If you're ready, if something in your spirit is roaring right now, if you can feel destiny stirring in your bones, then don't just watch this video. Participate in this miracle. Type "Yes, Lord" in the comments. Shout it if you have to. Whisper it if that's all you can manage. But declare it, seal it, release it into the atmosphere. Because when heaven hears your yes, the billionaire blessing doesn't just flow toward you, it crashes over you like a tsunami of divine favor that nothing on earth can stop. But will you say it? Will you finally agree with what God has been declaring over your life for decades? Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, your pain was never punishment, it was preparation. Every tear you've shed, every sleepless night you've endured, every moment you felt forgotten has been weaving together a tapestry of purpose that only heaven could design. Your scars are not marks of defeat, they are evidence of divine trust. Second, the weight you've carried isn't a burden, it's an anointing. God doesn't give his heaviest assignments to the weak. He entrusts them to those he knows can bear them with grace, with faith, and with unwavering love. You were chosen not because life would be easy, but because you could handle what others couldn't. And third, your billionaire blessing isn't just about money, it's about mission. You are not just surviving your story, you are becoming the answer to someone else's prayer. You are not just receiving abundance, you are becoming a river of hope that will water generations you'll never meet. But hear me clearly, you are not walking this path alone. God hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. He is still working, still moving, still orchestrating divine appointments in your life. And beyond that, you have a community right here, right now, of fellow chosen ones who understand your journey, who've walked similar paths, who are ready to stand with you in prayer and support. So let me ask you this, knowing what you now know about your calling, your purpose, your divine inheritance, what will you do with this revelation? Will you shrink back into the shadows, or will you step boldly into the light God has prepared for you? Before you go, I want to pray over you with the authority that comes from walking this same path, from carrying this same weight, from knowing the faithfulness of our God. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul hearing these words. You know their name, you know their story, you know the battles they've fought in secret and the victories they've won in silence. Lord, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary souls tonight. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel overwhelmed, be their strength. God, open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. Give them dreams and visions that will clarify their next steps. Surround them with people who see their value, who honor their calling, who will walk alongside them without trying to dim their light. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know in their spirit that you are proud of how they've carried what you've given them. Let them feel your smile, your approval, your deep love for who they are and who they're becoming. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. I want you to know that this message, this moment, this community, it's all here for you. Drop a comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart tonight. Ask questions. Share your testimony. Let us know how we can pray for you. You don't have to face tomorrow alone. And if this message touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to hear these words. There's someone in your life right now who feels exactly like you felt when you first clicked on this video. Be the vessel that carries this hope to them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to receive what God wanted to give you tonight. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell because your breakthrough journey is just beginning and there's so much more God wants to reveal to you. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. You are chosen. You are loved. You are never alone. God bless you, warrior. Your billionaire blessing is already on its way.